and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Stephen.
My name is Jerry.
And today we are continuing our draft profile series, talking about all the potential players that the Panthers could draft. We're sticking around number 6 right now, and Tyler Linderbaum, center out of Iowa, is our next candidate here. I tell you what, Jerry, the more I looked at this guy, and I've heard his name over the last couple months off the, Panthers Twitter and everything like that. And I just hadn't really looked into it because I don't really like to look into college players until right around now, honestly. But the more I looked into this guy, holy crap, like he is a stud, and the Panthers would be, I would be perfectly fine if this was the pick.
Yeah, I mean, you're stepping on the later pick.
No, I'm just saying, just as like a general introduction.
He would
this
be,
dude is a stud.
Yes, he is. He could easily step into this O-line and start right away at center, which any team that drafts him, he's going to step right in at center. He's going to be that type of constant Pro Bowl type of player. Mm-hmm. So real quickly, Tyler Linderbaum was a 3-star recruit out of Salon, Iowa, and committed to Iowa as a defensive tackle. He moved to center prior to 2019 and started 13 games that year. In 2020, he was named All-American and a finalist for the Remington Pace Trophy. And in 2021, won the award. And that is the best offensive lineman in the Big Ten. He was also a unanimous All-American as well. That move from defensive tackle to center was a brilliant move by his part. Yeah. I mean, he's being mocked in the top 10. And like we said, he seems like a can't-miss type of candidate. Future Pro Bowler. He's about to make a lot of money. So good for you, man.
Absolutely. I didn't know that he had started out as a defensive tackle. That's interesting. It's kind of crazy how some of these guys they go into college thinking they're doing one thing, and then someone has the forethought, I guess, foresight to say, hey, why don't you try this? And now this guy's going to be a top 10 NFL pick. Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, look at Malik Willis. He was a quarterback in high school, but Virginia Tech signed him to be a defensive back. But then he was like, no, I want to keep playing quarterback because he transferred and did well. I love finding little tidbits. I think that's fun, interesting news. And it kind of helps him on the offensive line, knowing kind of what they're trying to scheme against.
True, yeah. So he is 6'3", 290. And just kind of, again, looking at his stats, kind of hard to really dive into the stats of offensive linemen. But we can say that in his, 35 games starting, he gave up 2 sacks from the center position, only 6 QB hits. And this is for 3 years. And 11 hurries total out of 35 games. That's dominant.
That's almost 1,000 pass blocking attempts out of 1,000 pass blocking. So it's just crazy. And here's the crazy thing.
More than 1,000. I mean, like almost 1,300. Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. He's a better run blocker than pass blocker.
Yeah.
So.
And he's a great pass blocker. So
I believe I read that he had the best PFF score for an offensive lineman last year, and that this year he beat it.
He this year, so just looking at his PFF grades, and again, PFF grades, we know it's not the end all be all, but it's a good metric for us to look at some of these guys that we don't know a lot about.
And we're offensive linemen don't have stats that you can really look at that great.
I feel like PFF's pretty good with offensive linemen in terms of their grading. So 2019, they grade him at an 81.7, which is great, like really good. Okay.
I mean, he just converted over that year.
I mean, that's you'd be, if you had that grade and an NFL starting off of anything, honestly, you'd be very happy with that.
Absolutely.
He improved immeasurably in 2020, went up to a 91.5, which, as Jerry said, was the best in that season overall. 2021, 95.4. I mean, that's honest. That's about as close to perfect as you get.
Yeah.
And I believe that was the highest that PFF has ever graded a college offensive lineman.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, so it's no wonder that this guy is really getting a lot of, mocked into the top 10, and almost everybody's mocks. And if not the top 10, he's right there on the fringe.
Yeah.
But he is the real deal.
Yeah, I think the only reason why he's not easily a top 3 pick is he plays center, and center is
Yeah.
not as coveted as left tackle and quarterback.
But for the Panthers, and we'll talk about that in here in a minute. But for the Panthers, it's a need. It's a big need this
It
year.
is a huge need.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's look at some pros and cons, and why don't you kick us off with the pros?
he's extremely athletic, and he gets to the second level of the defense on his run blocking. I know I've seen the Panthers struggle with that in previous games. With Christian McCaffrey would get there, he would get hit quickly because no one was out there with him. He was on an island. Again, high football IQ, and that's what you need in a center. He needs to call out who's blitzing, what assignments the offensive line has. So another great tool in his arsenal.
Yep.
Back to the athletic, he's very mobile. He's very quick for his size. 6'3", 290. He can move.
Yeah.
He knows how to use his lower body to move defenders, and he has great hand technique. He's a former wrestler, so he's able to really control one-on-one how defensive players.
Yeah, and being a former defensive player himself, he knows what they're going to try to do, especially that defensive tackle position, which is, that's what's going against the center most of the time. So looking at some cons, and there's just a couple, honestly. Now, we got a little small here for an NFL center, and what I have seen some people say is that he needs to bulk up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I did look. He's the exact same size and weight as Jason Kelce for the Eagles, who's a very good starting center.
Ryan Khalil was considered a smaller center. Yeah. So it works. You don't have to be that big a brute at center.
Yeah. So, I mean, take it for what you will, but that's what some of the draft experts are saying.
Matt Rule wants to know his arm length, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, right. Another maybe knock against him in Matt Rule's eyes is, he's not very flexible in terms of where he can play on the O-line. He's a center, and he's pretty much a center. But honestly, when you have a center that's as good as him, you don't want him playing anywhere else.
I 100%
Why would
agree.
you? Yeah.
I don't think position flexibility is needed for starters, in my opinion. Yes, occasionally you'll need somebody to flex, but if you have a stud left tackle, you have a stud center, you stud guard, you don't need them constantly moving. Get them great at their position, and that's their anchor. That's
what we've been saying about Taylor Moton. He's excellent at the right tackle. He's one of the best in the league. When you move him to left tackle, he's not one of the best left tackles in the league. So you should keep him at right tackle. And then, one of the other cons is power rushers have pushed him back from time to time. So I think, again, that's, he's only been playing the position for really 3 years. Mm-hmm. So that's just going to come with, again, hand placement, foot placement, all that stuff. That's just going to come. But again, even that is not really that big of a deal because it didn't happen a lot. We see the stats. He gave up, 2 sacks and 1,300.
Again, our cons are we have to do cons on some of these guys, even though we've said he's a can't miss type of hit player. You pick him at 6, he's going to be on this franchise for 10, 11 years.
And I saw some people talking about his technique a little bit. And again, he hasn't been a center for that long. Some of these centers, offensive linemen that you're seeing in the draft, they've been doing it since high school. They've been doing it since Pee Wee. This is a guy that's only got 3 years experience in it. He's going to get even better than he is now. And he's already the best in college football. So that's exciting, right? Depending on what metric you're looking at. Yeah.
According to PFF, best ever. So I don't know really what is discussion of player here. What can I say? I mean, this guy's a beast. The Panthers would be lucky to have him on the team. The problem is who else is going to be out there? Because his position as center is a need, but it's not the biggest need of the Panthers.
Right. And, again, you're going to be looking at who else is going to be available at 6. Do you think you could trade back and get this guy at 10, 11, something like that? But again, I think if he's the number one player on your board or the number one player left on your board when you get to 6, I wouldn't have any problem taking him. again, we go through these common questions every draft profile. Does this player fit the current roster? I think we've already answered that. Absolutely. I mean, it's either him or Pat Elflein starting at center next season.
I'm hoping for maybe some free agents acquisitions that are not Pat Elflein, Cam Irving level,
Right. I've seen so many, not just David Newton, but I'm going to name David Newton, but not just him, saying that right tackle and center are spoken for 2022 for the Panthers with Moton and Elflein. And I'm thinking, why are we content with Elflein? He's not making that much money, and he's got position flexibility. He can play guard. Yeah, it'd be nice to have Elflein as a backup center just in case something happens to whoever we end up starting.
I would love for Pat Elflein to be a bench warmer because that is the only thing I think he's good for. He cannot block worth crap. So
if you're going to pay him, at least have him kind of in reserve. He can come in an emergency.
Yes.
And that's it. Yeah, I agree. So does this player fit the current roster? Absolutely. It fits a big need with Paradis gone, and Paradis was never, one of the top 10 centers when he was with the Panthers.
No.
We haven't had one since really Khalil left.
Yeah, we haven't had much of the offensive line since that era kind of started retiring of Jordan Groves, Ryan Khalil. Yeah, we had that one year with Michael Orr, but that was it. And that was kind of still
Michael Orr wasn't even great that year. It was just the rest of the line was so good that it sort of masked his deficiencies. Will this player fall to the Panthers at 6? I think so.
I do too.
I think he'll be there. But I think the question would be, do you want him at 6? Or if he's there at 6 and let's say, the 3 top left tackles are gone, and it's Lindenbaum and, a couple of the quarterbacks are available, something like that. Would you want to pick him at 6?
I mean, we haven't gone over the other quarterbacks, so I can't 100% say that. But I'll put it this way. I will not be upset if the Panthers pick him at 6. Now, I'd be upset if there was somebody higher on our draft board, that was still available. And I'm still in the frame of mind of this Panther team has lots of needs and only one top 100 pick. And that being 6, you may need to make some moves to get extras. And that's kind of why we're throwing a wider net on the draft profiles this year. So if you could drop back, get an extra pick, I would love that. And then take Linderbaum. Yeah. Even if you could
that would be the best case scenario.
I think you take Linderbaum at 6. I'm not complaining. That he's a can't miss type of candidate.
Yeah, there are going to be some guys that we talk about. There's already one we've talked about in Evan Neal, but that if they make it to 6, it's almost malpractice if you don't take him, right? Lindenbaum, I don't feel like it is one of those guys because I do think that you could get him a little later, not much later. I do think you want to stay around that 10-11 range, but I've seen, he's been mocked in the top 5. I've seen it in the top 5. So
again, we're talking about a top center in the league starting next year, probably a can't miss type of candidate or prospect. If you were short up on a lot of other positions, I could easily see someone going for him in the top 10.
Sure. And he's not like a Malik Willis where you're seeing him go, top 10 or second round.
Yeah.
Like this guy's not falling really out of the top 10, 12, something like that. So
let's go
will
ahead.
He be there at 6? I think he will be, but I don't think he'll be there too much past 6.
Okay. So let's go ahead and look at our big board real quick. So we have Evan Neal as number 1.
Yep.
And we have Malik Willis as 2. That's the 2 we've gone over.
Right.
So would Tyler Linderbaum unseat Evan Neal? I think you've already said it, but it's almost malpractice if you decide to do that.
Yeah, I think Evan Neal is going to remain number 1 on our big board for some time.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. I think you can't take Linderbaum over Evan Neal just because of the positional need, the higher importance of a left tackle over center.
Right. But does he move into the number 2 spot over Malik Willis? And for me, that's kind of a tough question because I really like Malik Willis. He's such a fun player. But when I look at quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at where I think you could maybe get Malik Willis a little later if you wanted to. And then comparing Malik Willis, and we haven't gotten there yet, but to like Kenny Pickett and some of these other guys, I think I would put Lindenbaum above Malik Willis right now.
I 100% agree. This is my thought when I was thinking about the big board is, would I be happy taking Linderbaum at 6? Yes. Yeah. Would I be happy taking Malik Willis at 6? I was like, not really. So that kind of made me think, Linderbaum's going to... So I will go ahead and update that.
To be clear, Jerry is not saying that he would be upset if Malik Willis was taken by the Panthers. He's not saying that. So no. We don't need the emails. We don't need the comments. He's just saying at 6, when you feel like you could probably trade back and get Malik Willis a little later and get some more assets, we would prefer that to taking Malik Willis at 6.
Yes, and that's exactly what when we did Malik Willis, I said, would you be excited for the... Absolutely. I think Malik Willis has a lot to offer. He's also not a can't miss candidate. So
right. Yep. High ceiling, maybe a low floor. So yeah, Malik Willis. We know a lot of you love Malik Willis. We love Malik Willis too. We'd be happy to get him on the team. But as of right now, and again, this big board is flexible. We've changed the big board around a decent amount last year when we did our draft profiles. So just because Evan Neal and Lindenbaum are above Malik Willis right now doesn't mean that we don't see something crazy happen in the combine, or some news comes out about somebody and we don't move them around a little bit.
Exactly, and that's a big thing with our big board is it does move around. We have Evan Neal right now. If we go out and sign Teran Armstead in free agency, unfortunately, as much as I think Evan Neal's a beast, he's going to drop on our big board just because it's no longer a need. This is a Panthers need big board.
See Micah Parsons, Denzel Perryman from last year.
Exactly. All right. Any last
Although we were wrong about that because Micah Parsons probably should have been the number 1 player on our board. Dude is so good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, speaking of Micah Parsons, did you watch the NFL Skills Challenge? That was Pro Bowl Skills Challenge. That was fun. He actually beat Tyreek Hill in a foot race. He won the foot race.
You text that to me, and I honestly couldn't believe it. That's wild, honestly. I mean, that dude is a freak. My gosh, what an athlete.
I'm just saying the skill challenge needs to replace the Pro Bowl itself.
The actual Pro Bowl? Yeah. Well, now you get both. You get the skills challenge and the Pro Bowl.
I didn't even know the skill challenge was on until I was on Twitter and someone started I saw Twitter saying, "Oh my goodness, this just happened on the skills challenge." I was like, "What?" It was entertaining. I watched the dodgeball and stuff like that. It was fun.
It's fun. It is fun. I don't know what I was doing last night, but I just didn't watch it. Yeah. Unfortunately, just real quick, the Hornets were shut out of the All-Star voting. LaMelo didn't make it. Miles Bridges didn't make it. Yet somehow, like Fred VanVleet made it. LaMelo's got better stats than him. Chris Middleton made it. LaMelo's got better stats than him. And Miles Bridges has better stats than him. So I don't know, man. Hornets get no respect, but enter the swarm. We're here for you. This is not a Hornets podcast, but I just wanted to mention that. All right.
All right. Are you done griping?
Yeah, I'm done.
We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. So, the little like and subscribe button, we need that. Follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. If you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on the show.
We will be back next week, and we will be discussing quarterback Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, that one should be fun. I'm really interested to see where he stacks up against Malik Willis, because I think that one of those two could legitimately be on the Panthers in a couple of months. So that's going to be fun to talk about. But until then, everyone stay safe out there and keep pounding.